would it be okay to call you a racist because of your actions as they relate to stop and frisk?
All right, look.
So what you just heard was a question being asked of Mike Bloomberg at a Fox News town hall last night. Bloomberg has not had a great couple of weeks to his campaign, and he's looking to reset things. That comes in a couple different forms. Hundreds of millions of dollars in new spending, a weird primetime address where he pretends he's president to talk about coronavirus, and that town hall. But at least from that question, it doesn't appear to have been going his way. Now, I want to give you the full question and then we'll get into his response. Here is what Trump supporter Daniel Rivera asked of Bloomberg.
Daniel Rivera, I'm a retired service disabled veteran. I was born and raised in Puerto Rico. Your stop and frisk hurt a lot of minorities in New York. A simple apology is not enough. If it's okay to call Donald Trump a racist because of his statements, and I'll give you an example, great people on both sides, would it be okay to call you a racist because of your actions as they relate to stop and frisk?
All right.
So look, that's obviously a very brutal question, but I think a lot of people are gonna be asking that sort of thing. And not just libs who are sensitive to these issues, but lots of, that's a Trump supporter right there. And what we have been saying now for a couple of months is Mike Bloomberg is a horrible candidate, and I feel like I can go further and say a horrible person in many of the same ways that Donald Trump is. And that provides not only a nullification of the advantage of having someone without those negative characteristics, but it also opens up the avenue for Donald Trump to attack the candidate for things that are true of himself. And I understand you might think, well, won't that be hypocritical? Yes, this is America. It's Donald Trump. He can do whatever he wants. He'll attack someone for having sexual assault claims against them. He doesn't care that he has dozens. That's just the way it works out. Mike Bloomberg is uniquely positioned to provide that opportunity to Donald Trump. But I did say I'm gonna play some of his response. So Mike Bloomberg he has been facing questions about stop and frisk. He will continue to. Here is the first bit of his response.
Stop and frisk is a technique, for those of you that don't know, that police in all major cities use. New York City's used it forever, still uses it. Stop and frisk is when you, at a crime scene, there are people there and you think some of them might be carrying guns. The police want to pat you down and make sure you don't have a gun. Remember, cops want to go home at night too, and crime scenes are dangerous, so they really worry about this. What happened is we were doing it for a long time. The murder rate went from 650 murders a year.
Okay, so there are multiple massive knowing lies there. So one is that he continually says that the reason the murder rate dropped was because of stop and frisk. That is simply not true. And if it were true, when they stopped stop and frisk, you would have expected that the murder rate would have gone back up. After all, that was the variable that was stopping the murders, but we didn't see that because that's not what it actually did. It didn't have that effect. But perhaps most importantly, the very nature of the program and how it was deployed, that is a complete lie. It was not simply that they patted people down around crime scenes. They went into these neighborhoods and they patted people down. They patted them down if they were at the crime scene or if they were near a store or if they were walking, they're on the sidewalk. There are people that can attest to the fact that they've been patted down dozens and dozens of times. What do they have, a fetish for hanging out in your chalk outlines? No, they're just walking in the neighborhood and they're being stopped. The cops are lingering in areas to stop particular sort of people. Not because of suspicion that they might be involved in a crime, not because of the proximity of a crime, but because of who they are and where they live. That's what it was. That's what it was designed to do. Bloomberg is lying about that. We unfortunately can't go to the next part, but I do want to let you know that he is continuing to tell the lie that it got a little bit out of hand, but when we noticed that, I shut it down and then it dropped by 95%. That is not at all how it actually went. It was only after a federal judge appointed a moderator to investigate claims of racial profiling by the NYPD that the city began to dramatically decrease its use. That same federal judge ultimately ruled that the policing tactic was an unconstitutional violation of civil rights because it did in fact target minorities, which is why the city officially abandoned the policy not long after Bloomberg left office. By the way, in that response, he again claimed that it wasn't targeting anyone like for a racial reason or anything like that, even though he knows that it did, he knows the effect that it had, and in fact, he advocated for fewer white people to be stopped not too many years ago. So as long as he is in the race, just expect that when it comes to stop and frisk, the lies, the gaslighting, that will continue. That's his only path, I guess. For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thedamagereport. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.